Today on the news and why it matters, the coronavirus. We have an update for you. The White House has spoken. Are we all going to die? We'll let you know. Also, Bernie Sanders and socialism. Got an update for you there as well. We've got a lot to get into, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by the one and only Jason Buttrill, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program.
I knew we were talking Bernie Sanders and socialism, so I wore my red coat.
Oh my God.
We got to switch the colors of the political parties in this country.
I know,
Well,
it
they
makes no
just
sense.
switched
After
them
this
not
election.
that long ago. They did do the little switcheroo. Oh my! Do not encourage him with a fist bump. What are you doing? Giancarlo Sopo of theblaze.com and also Aaron Colin of theblaze.com. By the way, both of them, we have stories featuring both of them on the show today. We will talk about both of their stories that you can find at theblaze.com. Got a lot to get into. Let's talk coronavirus first, because it seems to be the only thing that anyone can talk about other than Bernie Sanders and the Democrat contenders. Everyone seems to be convinced that the world is ending. We're all going to die. The White House actually addressed coronavirus. Trump spoke to the press yesterday afternoon, and he let everyone know he was putting Mike Pence in charge of heading up all the coronavirus affairs. Here is a little bit of what that looked like.
I look forward, Mr. President, to serving in this role, bringing together all the members of the Corona Task Force that you've established, the HHS, CDC, DHS, the Department of Transportation, and State. This team has been, at your direction, Mr. President, meeting every day since it was established. My role will be to continue to bring that team together, to bring to the President the best options for action to see to the safety and well-being and health of the American people.
Now, this news, of course, comes as we hear that there is the first case of, quote, community spread coronavirus found in California, which Aaron, I believe you wrote at theblaze.com. So what this means is that it's the first person-to-person transmission.
To where they don't know where the person got it from. There's no indication they were from China or that they came into contact with somebody who had traveled to China. So they don't really know where this one came from or how long they had it.
Okay. Jason, are we all dying?
Well, I am concerned that, I think it's the problem here is we just don't know enough about this. And I don't think we even know where it started in China to begin with. I don't think even Chinese even know right now. I think they're lying about it.
But because the special that you helped with Glenn's coronavirus special, you guys indicated that it was not from bat soup.
Yeah, and they've confirmed that, actually. Okay. State media has confirmed that. They were like, well, it might have come from somewhere else. So in other words, we don't really know. Now think how big China is with all the people there. That's pretty frightening, considering they haven't locked down travel from those other areas. Seeing cases in Iran popping up all over the place. The one in Canada recently was similar to this one that you wrote about, because she had traveled to Iran, but she's not sure who she caught it from Iran, which indicates that it's more widespread in Iran. She just popped up in Canada. We're like, holy crap. This is the governor of California, Newsom. He just said that they have 8,400 people, I believe, that are being monitored because they suspect they might have coronavirus. So I think right now everyone just doesn't really frickin' know. So what pisses me off most about this topic though right now, especially from the video you just played, was that they're criticizing the Trump administration, and they're trying to say, you saw Nancy Pelosi, you saw Chuck Schumer, everyone right now is jumping on board Bloomberg. They don't know what they're talking, he's not doing right, there's not enough money.
Yeah.
If you look just go back to 2009, the way Obama handled it. The way Obama handled it was there was already 46 states, the swine flu was in 46 states, 1,000 deaths, it was spreading all over the United States. Then he finally did something, and he asked for $1.5 billion to combat it. Trump has now asked for, I think, twice that amount of money, $2.5 billion. And they're saying it's inadequate all of a sudden. The politics involved in this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And Jason touched on the Democrats' reaction to President Trump's response to coronavirus. Let's listen to Nancy Pelosi talk about Trump's coronavirus response and how it's meager. It's meager.
What he's doing is late, too late, anemic, hopefully we can make up for the loss of time. But it'll have to have the professionals in place, the resources that are adequate, and not be using scare tactics about people coming back to our country.
Me? And what I just said. He did more than Obama, and it was worse under the swine flu as far as the United States.
It's almost as if the Democrats would like to cause mass chaos and encourage widespread outbreak just to make Trump look bad.
Well, they're the party of chaos, right? They're ideologically the party of chaos. So I am not surprised that Pelosi would react like this, but she's a charlatan. I mean, she has no idea what the hell she's talking about.
But does that make her a charlatan, or do you think she's just senile?
Both. But look, I thought President Trump's press conference yesterday was very clear and very strong. Mm-hmm. This administration is taking extensive measures to protect Americans from any potential outbreak. We're not sure if there's going to be an outbreak. The fatality rates really vary in China by region, by age, by person. So I don't want people to be alarmed, right? I know Glenn was a little worried about this, but
Glenn?
Yeah.
No.
I don't want people to be alarmed. I think we have the best healthcare in the world. There was a study by Johns Hopkins that showed that the United States of America is the country that's most prepared for any kind of like a virus outbreak. So we are in good hands. We just have to be smart. You know, what we can't do. Look, when your likely nominee is Bernie Sanders, you need a deadly virus in order to win an election, right? Mm-hmm. That's what's happening.
Another misinformation tactic that they're doing, this absolutely drove me wild, and you saw this in the debates. You saw Michael Bloomberg say that Trump had cut CDC funding.
Yes, the CDC funding was cut. Therefore, that's going to lead to a lot of deaths.
It's not even true.
It's an absolute lie. That's exactly. Yeah, it's increased.
AP fact checked this and they debunked it. So these people are just. Yeah.
Which is interesting because I didn't see the AP, I'm not saying AP did anything wrong, but I haven't seen that widely disseminated that AP fact-checked Michael Bloomberg on that.
The correction never gets the attention that the initial claim does, and so once a claim's out there, most people are just going to see that, and then it fuels that panic.
Right.
But I think the biggest problem here is that I think the healthcare system can take care of people who get coronavirus in the United States. I think the deaths have come from people who are older with pre-existing conditions and things like that. But the concern is there could be unnecessary cases and deaths if the government is not prepared to handle it as it comes. In terms of, we've seen in California, there's delays in how quickly people are getting tested when they're suspected of having it. And so you want to be on top of it in terms of making sure that you're detecting it so that you're containing it. Not that it's going to wipe out millions of people necessarily, but you don't want unnecessary people dying or unnecessary people getting coronavirus because you're not getting ahead of it. And I'm not accusing, the government of not getting ahead of it, but there are some indications that maybe we're a little bit slow to prepare and to test people to make sure they're getting treatment right up front for this thing.
You have to look at the way, just past precedent. And the one I've been looking at is back in 2009. It's very similar, except it seems like the Obama administration was actually slower.
Waited longer.
Actually, they waited longer. There was more. It was a lot more widespread. A lot more people were dying from this thing. It took them until, I believe, October 2009, after it had already been spreading for a while, to finally come out and allocate money. And when they actually look at this is another deceptive thing they do about it. They say, well, Obama gave $6 billion to combat the swine flu. And that is true. But the way these things happen, they happen over time. So they don't just come out with a blanket number what they think it might cost them to fight off this virus. He did 1.5 billion. Then later on down the line, as it spread, a couple more billion. But so don't take this, the propaganda they're spewing right now as fact. 2.5 billion is more than than Obama allocated. That's a fact. And it'll probably go up as it spreads, but it's going to take a little while.
It's like if you give a mouse a cookie in the government. You give a mouse a cookie, they ask for that original piece, and they're always going to ask for more. You got to factor that into it.
And I think what we're seeing around the world is that government disinformation causes problems in terms of allowing this to spread because people don't know how to respond to it. It happened in China. It's happening in Iran right now. And it could happen here if you've got people like Nancy Pelosi or other Democrats spewing things that are not true about the nature of this situation. It is a serious situation. It's not something that we need to cause a panic about because that'll just cause more problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just also be clear, right? 15 people have been diagnosed so far in the United States, from what I understand, based on the press conference yesterday, right?
cases.
Right.
Yes.
$2 billion for 15 people. that's like, what is it, like 700? Well, like my math is on.
I mean, okay, but
it's 75 million per person.
Right, but it's not just for the people who are affected now.
Of course. But what I'm trying to say in terms of like proportionality, like that's a ton of money, right? That's more money sometimes than we allocate toward like hurricane disaster relief. So everyone's got to chill. Things are going to be okay. You know, part of the reason why this is causing an economic slowdown is because we have this ridiculous economic relationship with China that we should have reassessed a long time ago. And they're also a quasi-incompetent communist government. Yeah. So everyone's got to chill.
That's what I don't get, and I hope that Americans really take from this particular situation is, Jason, the thing that struck me is everyone's like, well, now we're going to have antibiotic shortages and medication shortages and all these shortages. And I'm like, why the hell are we getting all these things from China in the first place? Should that not be the first question that we're asking, is what we're trusting China for all of this stuff? Maybe that's what we should be looking at. That
amount, I don't know whose idea that was, but I tell you what, companies, if they should be held accountable by their board, not the government, but by their boards, should be was this your idea to shift all of our need for medical raw materials, all to China?
Yeah.
The numbers are insane. Glenn probably remembers them off the top of his head. I don't remember. We did this in the show. But it's like 85% or something like that of raw materials to make our drugs. 85% all from China. And it was around 90% of all antibiotics come from China. Yeah. So if something shuts down there, you can imagine what prices would happen. It skyrocket.
I think like one of the most important aspects of the Trump administration thus far of his presidency has been really to reassess our relationship with China, which both sides of the aisle have long taken that, well, we just have free trade with this government and it's in our best interest because we can get cheap crap. But it's really not in our best long-term strategic interest to be this dependent on a communist government that has plans for global domination. So this is another indicator that we need to reassess this relationship and start looking more toward natural partners like the UK, people who do share our values, rather than some rogue communist regime on the other side of the world.
Yeah. Aaron, last word on this. Japan actually is requesting that all schools close ahead of this whole coronavirus outbreak. And now, just for comparison, Japan, as of this morning, Japan had 910 confirmed cases of coronavirus with 8 people who have died. Is that really a reason to shut down all your schools?
It strikes me as a severe overreaction. You know, I don't claim to know all the details of how things are going in Japan, but shutting down all the schools, I mean, the impact of that to their entire society is going to be very significant, because I think they're shutting down for maybe a month or something like that.
Right, because so then that leads to, well, the parents can't go to work.
Parents can't go to work.
They got to keep their kids at home.
And that doesn't mean people are necessarily going to be staying in their house, so coronavirus could still spread, so it doesn't even solve the entire problem. It just seems like they're trying to do something big to maybe make people feel better, but it doesn't strike me as something that'll be effective.
Those oversteps like that are what scare the crap out of me as far as the economic impact, and especially going into a November election. I mean, if more industry gets shut down or even just slowed a little bit, and you get the smell of an economic downturn, that could bury Donald Trump. It really could. And then if something happens to the economy.
And can you imagine the Democrats' talking points on how? Right, that Trump's mishandling of coronavirus caused all of these economic disasters.
Yep.
Oh, God, I can't even, I just want to throw up. Before we get back into, let's see what's coming up next. Communist Cuba praises Bernie Sanders on the front page of their state-run newspaper. Oh, that's so cute. It's almost like they're trading love letters like he said they weren't doing. First, I want to talk to you about Laurel Springs. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this place. I didn't know about it until I learned about them because they were going to become an advertiser on the show. And they actually are an online private school that encourages children to pursue their dreams, to provide opportunities that give them the best chance to succeed. So this is K through 12, all right, and it's accredited. So they can take those credits that they're going to school for, and they can use them wherever they go to college. Again, kindergarten through 12th grade, and they provide a personalized approach to learning, from attention to unique learning styles, one-on-one relationships with teachers and counselors, and They also have real-time school events and clubs. Laurel Springs combines the benefits of a traditional school with the flexibility and personalization of online learning. They have a curriculum that offers challenging and diverse elective courses. I looked at them. Trust me, they are legit. It fosters inquiry, growth, mastery, purpose, and independence by valuing your kids as individuals and enabling them to focus on the things they love. Like I said, it's all accredited. It's not just for funsies. They're actually getting credit for this that they can use to go into college. It's accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges and Advanced ED, which means their transcripts, they're recognized by worldwide universities. You can register your child today at laurelsprings.com/Y. You can get a waived registration fee. That is laurelsprings.com/Y. This is the free market solution that we are always talking about on this program right here. Online private school, K through 12, laurelsprings.com/Y. Communist Cuba praised socialist Bernie Sanders on the front page of their state-run newspaper. Giancarlo, how do you say grandma?
Grandma.
Well, I mean, okay, I can do that too. I just want to make sure.
No, yeah, grandma, yeah.
Okay. The Communist Party newspaper prominently displayed a report about Sanders and his praise of, quote, some of the social programs implemented by the historic leader of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro. They added its own analysis of the Democratic race, and they said that Sanders seems unstoppable. I guess that's what happens when you praise a communist regime for their literacy rates instead of, taking the time to call out all of the horrible things they did.
Yeah, totally. I don't even think that the front pages of the communist newspaper in Cuba were so glowing about Barack Obama, who went there.
Yeah.
So, they certainly see Bernie Sanders as an ideological ally of theirs. He's parroting their talking points. Cuba's literacy rate was already one of the highest in Latin America before the revolution. So the Cubans have this habit of going around the world, and the way that they're able to shift attention away from like their human rights abuses and the lack of basic freedoms on the island is they say, oh, look, we have a gay pride parade, or hey, we have these literacy programs. So that's the way that they've always been very successful at deflecting away criticism from the international center left, especially using these types of tactics. So I am not surprised that they were like over the moon that Bernie Sanders was praising Fidel Castro's literacy program, something that like I don't think anybody else in the world does except other quasi-communist governments in Latin America.
Mm-hmm. Jason, I keep getting this comment a lot, which I understand to a certain extent. They say, what about President Trump and how he sucks up to Kim Jong-un of North Korea? What about that? And I'm like, I also criticized that. However, there may be something to be said for trying to, the art of negotiation in the moment that you're talking with someone, as opposed to praising someone who is long gone. And there's like, what good can come from praising someone who has the history that he has? There's no benefit. Right.
You definitely have a point, and the other people have a point.
Yeah. That's why I said, we were not fans of President Trump going and kissing the feet of Kim Jong-un.
Right. The thing with Bernie Sanders is he's an ideologue. Trump is not an ideologue. Mm-hmm. So when Bernie Sanders praises, the Sandinistas, or if he praises, Castro, he's praising everything that the ideology behind what they're doing. And it's communism. And we know that. That's why it's in a different ballpark as far as Bernie Sanders is concerned. The Trump stuff he said a lot of things that I just was like, oh my gosh, dude.
Right.
I know why he was doing it, because like you said, he was trying to get a deal done.
That's how he knows that flattery works for him, I think. And so that's what he does to other people to try to butter someone up for a deal.
Right. I think one of the worst things I heard him say was, he was talking about the president of China, and he was like, yeah, he's managed to, become president for life. That's a beautiful thing. I was like, no, it's not. No, danger.
But we can say these things, right? Like, we can criticize President Trump for saying those things. Many of the left can't do that with Bernie.
Politically, it's just such a weird hill for Bernie to die on. I don't know why he's holding on to it so tightly to where you want to make this point about the literacy thing so much, even though people are saying, hey, dude, it's just not worth it. It's not the thing.
They gave him like quadruple times to maybe
plenty of times, and he's like, no, but really, they were really reading over there. And it's like, it's not, we don't even care that much. Like, who among his base?
Like, who?
Right, that's what I'm saying. What do you have to gain from
Why is
this?
this point so important to him? He's going to pay a price politically for it in the primary, and if he's the nominee, he's going to pay a price for this, and it's not doing anything for anybody here. He just, I guess, believes it so deeply that he has to hold on to this one point. I don't get it.
Giancarlo, you were talking about the latest polls in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders could not get elected dog catcher in Miami. I mean, even Hispanic Democrats. There was the head of the Hispanic the Hispanic arm of the Broward County Democratic Party. And Broward's a pretty liberal county. She came out and said, enough is enough. Like, we're fed up with this crap. This is not what any of us signed up for. She publicly denounced Bernie Sanders. The local party in Miami-Dade and the statewide party for Florida had to issue statements denouncing Fidel Castro. He was denouncing Fidel Castro, the man who's been dead for 4 years. That's the kind of position that Bernie Sanders is putting his entire party in. And I think if Bernie Sanders, for some reason, it does not come out as the nominee this year, we might be looking back at this point in the campaign as the start of his decline, which I think is, once again, Cubans have like this like my people have this outsized impact on American elections.
Giancarlo brings up a good point about the position he's putting the party in. I was just reading an article, I can't remember where, but they were talking about how Nancy Pelosi was just commenting that if Bernie Sanders becomes the nominee, that won't, his policies, the way he's going to be directing everything, is not necessarily what Democrats in the House are going to be campaigning on. And she was like, we're going to not focus on these like divisive, radical issues. We're going to focus on what allowed us to take control back in 2018. And the majority of the I think coverage went to like Justice Democrats, AOC, and how they won. But every single candidate they ran and those contested seats that they were trying to swing was only done because they were moderate. That's the only way they were able to flip those seats in those swing states that used to be Republican. So his way does not work. Pelosi knows that, so they're going to be going one direction while he's going to be going that direction. It's going to be one of the most chaotic things if he gets the nomination.
This is the kind of weird thing that Joe Biden was doing with the segregationists like months ago, where he was saying, well, they did have some good things going on. And it's like, why? Dude, there's certain things where you have to say, like, the good does not outweigh the bad, and you don't need to make that point. And Bernie's just going to go down this road.
But you know what I think is really funny? I don't know, have you guys heard the story of Sanders' trip to Cuba in like 1989 or 1990, and he was like begging for a meeting with Fidel Castro when he went down there, and even the Cubans thought that he was crazy, so they just had him meet with like the mayor of Havana, which I don't even think is like a real position. I think they just told him to meet. We got Sanchez here for you. You're going to meet with Sanchez, and like Sanchez isn't even mayor. I don't even think Havana has a mayor. So this goes to show you like how insane this person is.
Yeah. Giancarlo, you actually have this story up at theblaze.com right now. A growing group of DNC superdelegates and party leaders are actually planning to stop Bernie Sanders at the convention in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So it's pretty interesting. The New York Times broke the story where they interviewed, I think it was like 93.
Yeah, 93 superdelegates.
Yeah, out of like 700 and something superdelegates. So that's like a pretty significant sample size. And they said that 90% of them would vote against Sanders, even if he had a plurality of the count, like heading into the convention. So, I mean, yeah, like these people don't want a communist as the head of their party, and that's very understandable because these folks have a lot of money and they know that he's gonna make them stand in bread lines.
If that happens, Milwaukee, nice knowing you, because
this isn't speculation. They told us they were going to do it in the undercover videos that we saw from Project Veritas. Yeah. Milwaukee will burn, and especially if it's given to Bloomberg. Can you imagine? The person that he epitomizes, the person they hate and want to destroy, and he gets it unfairly instead of Bernie.
It'll be like 1968 all over again.
It absolutely will.
But this is like what happens when you allow it to get this far, and then suddenly you're trying to pump the brakes, and it's like There's no pumping the brakes anymore. There's no way to get out of the situation without some damage on one end or the other, either ending up with Sanders or having to do something dramatic to get rid of him. And so it's not going to end well for them either way it goes.
It's their own fault. They allowed themselves to get that way. They flirted with these they went away from the middle. They flirted with these far left, ideas because they had no original ideas. They didn't know what to do. And then once Barack Obama became president, he didn't deliver on any of them because they're insane. Yeah, obviously.
And it's funny because in many ways there are so many parallels with the Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro is almost like this fringe element, and then the center left people, the Catholic Student Union, and all these groups started saying, well, why don't we just form this alliance with this guy and then we can just get rid of him when we get rid of Batista was also a dictator. So let's focus on getting rid of Batista and then we can worry about Castro some other time. But what they learned is that you cannot form coalitions with these people. You can negotiate with them. You just have to exclude them. And what should have happened back, I'd say probably in 2015, if not definitely by 2017, was that whoever was in charge of the DNC or the Democrats at the time should have just stood up and said, listen, we don't care if it'll cost us an election. We don't want Marxists in our party. You guys have to leave. Go to your hippie commune or something, right? But you we don't want you. They should have said that, and I think it would have been a much more sustainable strategy for the party. Instead, now they have to deal with a neo-Marxist cult that they have within the party, and you can't get rid of these people.
You know what sucks? Bernie Sanders, when he became mayor, he won by a handful of votes.
10 votes.
10, 14 votes, something like that. And his friends said that if he would have lost, he would have gone away forever. Right. So if you're thinking about, voting in the next election, you better frickin' vote because you could be those 10 votes that actually makes a difference.
All right, back in a minute. God, that's terrifying. I
really don't think the man has a mayor. Wonder who the hell did he use?
The Competitive Enterprise Institute published a study analyzing the Green New Deal and its effects on the transformation of electricity production, transportation, elements of shipping, and construction in 11 states that implementation of the Green New Deal would necessitate. And among the 10 of the 11 states that were analyzed, the study found that the average household burden of the Green New Deal in its first year is only $75,168. Huh. That's per household. God. So, you got that laying around somewhere in a piggy bank that you can just...
Well, I do, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's the income inequality we're talking about, yeah.
But with an average projected annual average cost of $47,755 for 4 years afterward. Now, poor Alaska, they are the outlier of this particular study. They apparently would see a first-year cost burden of $84,584.
That's more than the average family makes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Undoable.
And the authors of the study also noted that their estimates do not include the, quote, cost of the non-energy components of the resolution, which they said might dwarf the energy-related costs by an order of magnitude. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm sorry, the world's just going to have to end. I don't have the money. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's we're all going to die in 9 years anyway, so. That's
a great point. So why make the investment now?
Yeah.
Right? So here is AOC. A little montage that Grabian did. She went on to read the entire Green New Deal. Now, we're not going to put you through AOC reading the entire Green New Deal, but here is AOC reading portions of the Green New Deal, showing it has a lot to do with things that don't necessarily have anything to do with the environment.
And ensuring affordable access to electricity, guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security to all people of the United States. Promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous peoples, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities.
It sounds like she's saying for the low price of 75 grand, I can get reparations for myself as a black person. Which I don't know how much those reparations are, but that's not a good trade-off. I don't know. Let's do the math on that.
It's genius, this whole thing, because they're like, with this Green New Deal, they're like, not only are we going to save the planet because it's going to die, but we're going to save the planet, we're going to save your lives, and we're going to fix every single problem that you may have had. If you've ever felt marginalized in any way, we're going to fix all those problems. All you have to do is just hand the keys over to us, everything. And I cannot believe it. People fall for this crap.
Yeah.
They actually fall for this crap.
This is a Trojan horse. Exactly. I mean, we know what's behind this. This is they want to seize the means of production.
Yes.
They want to have confiscatory tax rates because you cannot pay for this without confiscatory tax rates. Usually, what usually happens in some of these Latin American governments is that the first couple of years, the economy starts going pretty well, and then everything just starts crashing down because, like all the rich people who build companies and innovate and create jobs, they take their money out. So then the economy collapses, people become desperate, and they start demanding change, and that's when they really start cramping down on civil liberties. The writing's on the wall.
Yeah. Well, good luck to AOC in pushing the Green New Deal in Congress. I think her whole point of explaining, no, you guys listen, it's got a lot of other great things in here, I think probably is pushing them even further away.
The dangerous part about it is that when it gets reported on or when she talks about it, she lists these good goals of justice and blah, blah, blah. They're good goals, like in general terms. And people hear that and they say, oh, I like that. I want to vote for Bernie Sanders because that Green New Deal is going to do some good things. And if they don't ask, well, what's behind it? What does it mean? How would it get done? Then they're just like, they're voting for something that is going to be very damaging down the road just because it sounds good. And that's what they're banking on, that nobody ever really exposes what this is about to the mainstream public.
I've heard no one make an actual good argument to how all of this is stupid and crying about all these things. Like the way that, technology goes in certain waves, and like we don't all use coal anymore. We don't use steam anymore. There's like advances. Eventually energy gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner the further along that you get. These changes are going to happen anyway. Everything that they want to force on you right now and strip away all of your rights and, not only strip away your bank account, but everything that they're using right now to as a tool of oppression. You're not going to have to worry about this because technology is going to solve it.
But their argument is going to be that, well, you don't have enough time. We can't wait for it to happen.
That's why they attack
we've got to take over
years
now.
on it.
Yeah, that's what the time is about.
You guys just don't know better because she has an economics degree.
Oh, my bad.
She studied under Milton Keynes. All this, that you could just print money. So you guys, I'm sorry, you guys are just simpletons.
You're right.
The little known elusive Milton Keynes. Quickly before we go, we came to you, I guess it was Monday, with the report of Department of Homeland Security official and whistleblower Philip Haney, who was found dead over the weekend. And the Sheriff's Office in California, where this was located, said in its initial press release that he appeared to have suffered a single self-inflicted gunshot wound. They were already ruling it a suicide. Apparently, in a new press release issued yesterday, the Sheriff's Office stated, unfortunately, there was misinformation immediately put out that we have determined Mr. Haney's death to be a suicide. This is not the case. We are currently in the beginning phase of our investigation, and any final determination as to the cause and manner of Mr. Haney's death would be extremely premature and inappropriate. At least they're looking into it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Haney didn't kill himself.
How did this? Yeah, no, I mean, this is stupid. I don't know how it got reported this way to begin with, but I was reading their little response, and they were like, we think that they must have misunderstood us or something because that's not what we said.
But listen, pursued for what, 2 days?
Yeah.
Without being refuted?
He was driving on the freeway, gets out of the freeway, gets out, and then shoots himself in the chest.
Wonderful life.
Yeah.
Outside of his car. Before he was, going to be married the next month and was already in talks to join the Department of Homeland Security again and was working on a follow-up book to his first one, which was exposing a bunch of corruption within the DHS and the government.
I've had multiple people reach out to us privately, and they were friends of his, knew him, and said, this makes absolutely no sense. There was no indication to us whatsoever. This stinks. I'm not saying that it was anything targeted. It could have just been, I don't know, it just could have been he had a flat tire or something pulled over, and then he got robbed, or something like that, or a thug did this. It could have been anything but what it's being reported. But the fact that the media and everyone fell right got in line to kind of say this is what we want the story to be because he was a whistleblower during the Obama administration, and please let it just be that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting.
I mean, Aaron, imagine if he who shall not be named, who is the latest whistleblower.
Are we still doing that?
In the government, I don't want to get the video taken down from YouTube, so.
I forgot the guy's name, actually.
Well,
That's the whole point, right?
yeah, imagine
Yes.
if this had happened to him.
Yeah, it would be a meltdown,
Yeah.
and it would be reported totally differently. And it just goes to show how even things as serious as the life and death of somebody just get so politicized to where you will push a narrative about somebody's death just because of whose side you perceive them to be on. It's irresponsible.
All right, back in a minute. CNN, recently under fire, has now altered its report on the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Now, they had originally suggested that a baby surviving an abortion, stick with me here, a baby that survives an abortion and is actually born alive, which is kind of why they call it the Born Alive bill, is different than all other babies.
It's a fetus that was born.
Yes, it was a fetus. They described the bill as requiring abortion providers to work to preserve the life and health of a fetus that was born following an attempted abortion as they would for a newborn baby, or face up to 5 years in prison. Now they have, again, like I said, they came under fire for this. They just recently finally updated the article by removing the phrasing and clarified that it actually is the live birth of an infant. So they said, actually this bill is an abortion that results in the live birth of an infant, and it would require abortion providers to exercise the same degree of professional skill and care. Now, it does still paint the bill as a, quote, abortion restriction bill, which I'm having trouble doing.
Right, like the abortion's already, the attempt on the abortion
has already happened. You just were not successful at killing your own child.
Yeah.
Sorry, now it's a baby and we need to take care of it.
It's like they can cover up the language that they use in that article because of the backlash, but it really exposes the thought process that it takes to take that position on that bill, that you have to mentally dehumanize this being in order to say you don't have to take care of it after it's born because it wasn't wanted. And it's just, the contradiction is so obvious, and they try to hide it because if people want their children, it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks into the pregnancy, 4 weeks, whatever, whenever you find out, that's a baby. And so the idea that something that can come out of the womb and you can say, well, that's just a fetus that was born because it was unwanted. I mean, the mental denial that you have to be in to take that stance is pretty unbelievable.
This pisses me the hell off when they try to classify, they try to say that just because you're at a different stage of life that it's somehow less. Oh, it's just a fetus. Well, there's many different stages of life, especially children. There's toddlers. Yeah. There's toddlers. That's
Newborn.
a specific. Do we diminish the life of a toddler because it's a toddler? And you want to label it that? No, it's alive.
Yeah, this is like one of the issues where the media engages in the worst possible gaslighting. Mm-hmm. We see it all the time, especially with the issue regarding late-term abortions, where the media they just straight up lying, because even the pro-choice groups recognize that there are about 10,000 late-term abortions per year, the vast majority of which have nothing to do with fetal endangerment or a threat to the life of the mother.
Well, hold on. Because that is a fallacy in itself. In a late-term abortion, the fetus is already viable, and if there is a danger to the health or life of the mother or the baby, it's much quicker and safer to undergo an emergency C-section than it would be to induce an abortion.
Right. So, but the media do not report this, right? What they try to do is that they'll say something like this, right? Which is it's a logic trick. Well, they say, well, it's like less than 1%.
Right.
Right. Problem is that when you're talking about 800 or 900,000 abortions per year, 1% of that is like a ton of babies.
Right. Well, also, I mean, even let's say that, okay, fine, we'll give you that. So, are you saying that it's wrong? Because if so, we should all agree that we should stop it.
So, somebody put out the figure.
No matter how minor.
Yeah, like somebody put out the figure. It's 10,000 babies who are butchered in after the 22nd week in a pregnancy. Mm-hmm. To put that in perspective, right? We were all horrified, no matter whether you thought it was the fault of the police officer or the suspect. when there was the issue about, I think it was about 1,000 black men who were killed, I think in 2017, during various engagements with the police officer. Take that number, multiply it by 10. That's the number of babies that are aborted in a late-term procedure in this country per year. But the media, they want to inoculate the American public from this horrific reality.
Yeah.
Abortion cannot be defended if you acknowledge the personhood. So you have to play this game, otherwise the entire thing crumbles, and this becomes such a foundational issue that people want to have this right to do this, that they have to play these games no matter how ridiculous it might seem, like that CNN article. That's probably going to only get worse, because as this goes on and as we keep trying to say this is what abortion is and what it does, and they have to keep kind of twisting in gymnastics to make it work, it's just going to keep getting more ridiculous.
I think the CNN article is kind of proof that it is getting worse, because, you want to talk about Overton window. They kept making the argument that it's not a fetus until it's born. I'm sorry, it is a fetus until it's born.
Yeah, and
right?
by that
it's a fetus until no, it's still a fetus. It's inside the mom's stomach. It's still a fetus.
So you're now saying there's no limit at all. Like 24 weeks is not even a limit anymore, because there's no logical reason for that. Now you have to say it goes to the end.
Is it exiting the vaginal canal?
Well, but that's what their argument basically was until it's born, it's still a fetus that relies on its mother for survival. Now they're taking that same term fetus and using it after the baby has already been born.
But then it's like, what? Let's stop and just define fetus for a second. That's just a stage of development. Like you said, it's just a stage of development. So the idea that changing the word changes the nature of the thing that we're talking about, it doesn't make any sense.
They're constantly changing it. Before it was like viability, you know, if it could breathe on its own. But then viability, based off of technological advancement, kept on shifting further and further back towards conception. So not that far, but kept on shifting back. So it's the most stupidest argument if people actually listened to it and thought it through. It makes absolutely no sense. The human capacity to do evil things always amazes me, even though I've seen a lot of it in my time. But there's a viral video going around the internet right now. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's this girl that she videotaped multiple abortions. She's a teenager, it looks like. She looks like she's in high school. And she videotaped it to like a rock video.
Yeah, on TikTok,
on TikTok, that's right. It is the most disgusting thing. Actually, if you watch it, I almost started crying watching it. It is horrifying. It's so normalized now. We're losing this argument. I don't know how to get back and win it again.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. And yes, Jason did say most stupidest. Yesterday's poll question, who came off the worst in the Democratic debate? Joe Biden took the cake here, 32, almost 33%, followed by Bernie Sanders at 27%, Elizabeth Warren at 20%, and Mike Bloomberg at 21%, and then Elizabeth Warren. Joe Biden, did he really come off looking that much worse than he just already looks every day that he campaigns?
He just looks like he's not in the fight. I think that's the worst thing, is everybody else has got the energy to actually get combatant. He just looks like, the guy that has no energy whatsoever to engage. I don't think he wants to continue this.
Do you think he ever wanted it?
No, actually I don't. I think
either.
I think he was pressured into this because of the mere existence of Warren and Sanders.
Well, it looks like he's about to win South Carolina, so maybe that'll rejuvenate him a little bit. Yeah, there's one. Maybe not. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like having a dead person on stage, and I feel terrible for him. He's an older gentleman. He's been through some pretty horrific experiences throughout his life. I wish Uncle Joe would just go home and be with his grandchildren and his family. He's clearly not up for this.
Well, the good news is if the presidential thing doesn't work out, he can always fall back on the U.S. Senate bid that he apparently is running for, told everyone that he was running for, except he's not. So it's really awkward. Today's poll, are you worried about the coronavirus in the United States? If you are, I'm sorry, but you're overreacting. I can say this because Glenn's not here today. So I can say it. Glenn's sitting there. I don't know if I say this to you, but today I'm telling you, I don't think you should be. Let me. Don't panic.
No,
That's what I would like. I wouldn't be worried more than you're worried about catching the flu every winter.
I wouldn't say worried. I think concerned might be better. That seems less hyperbolic to me because I definitely think it's going to spread a lot more, and I think it's going to be more mainstream as far as a lot people that you know are catching this.
Be aware.
Yeah,
Right.
be aware.
I have young children, and I
Cautious.
think that's something that if it was to come here more, then I would be a little bit concerned about. But right now, I think it's going to control a little bit.
Cautious, that's a good word.
Yeah, I would be cautious. I'm an ogre who just lives in his apartment. I never go outside, so I'm going to be fine.